How did you even have time to roll out NetSuite? Like, how did you do this?
Oh, it was...
Did you bring in implementers? Did you do it yourself? Like, how did this happen?
No, we did it ourselves. We worked with NetSuite Direct and all of the developers and all of the ACS team, and we did all the pre-videos. It was a lot of work. I don't know how now I could do it with my schedule now. I don't know if we could be like, hey, let's implement a new system. I'd be like, I don't have time. But we found the time.
This episode of the Cloud Accounting Podcast was recorded at the Oracle NetSuite SuiteWorld Conference in September of 2022. To learn more about NetSuite and the SuiteWorld Conference, visit netsuitesuiteworld.com. Hello and welcome to the Cloud Accounting Podcast. I'm Blake Oliver.
And I'm David Leary.
And we are recording at SuiteWorld 2022 in Las Vegas. It's our last interview of the day, and David has lost his mind.
I just zoned out for a quick second. Actually, to be honest, I got thrown off. I was looking at our guest LinkedIn. I saw that she was at Arthur Andersen.
Oh.
And I was like doing audit, and like I was just thinking like that was the Enron years right around then, I think. And so I was trying to do the math in my head, and that's why I zoned out.
Now we definitely have a topic of conversation.
Right.
We are speaking with Shana Veale, CPA. Hello, Shana.
Hi.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
And you are a VP/CFO at PharmChem Inc. Farm Check Drugs of Abuse Sweat Patch. What does that mean?
So the Drugs of Abuse Sweat Patch, the Farm Check, it's a patch that's worn on the arm for 7 to 10 days of somebody who's being drug tested. So it's an alternative to urine testing or hair testing or blood testing.
Huh.
And it's worn for 7 to 10 days, and then it's taken off, and the little cotton pad is sent to the lab, and then it's tested to see if that person has done any illegal drugs.
So I've had to take drug tests to get a job before, but I've never heard of this ever.
Right.
Is this new? Is this?
It's not new. We've been around for 30 years.
Wow.
But we're in the criminal justice arena right now. So it's more probation, parole, pretrial type client.
And why would that be preferable, this patch, to a urine test or something like that?
The patch is harder to tamper with. You can't. It collects your sweat. You can try and overhydrate, but it still has collected your sweat over the 7 to 10 days. So if you've done drugs, it's going to keep those molecules in there, and it's going to show up on the lab test. Yeah.
And looking at the picture, it looks like it has a coat on it. It doesn't look like it's easily removable.
Nope. It's pretty solid. So if you tried to remove it, when you remove a Band-Aid, you get a little bit of skin layer. That's what happens immediately off of the patch. So you can't put it on, take it off, and put it back on. It would be obvious. So, yeah.
And what is your role there as, a VP/CFO?
So my role is I'm the finance department. We're very small. We're 9 people total. So I'm the one that does customer checks, bank recs, financial reporting, month-end close. I'm that.
You are the finance department.
Mm-hmm.
And you're on NetSuite?
I am.
Wow.
Yep. We just moved January of this year. Yeah, so we're very new. I'm also the admin of that NetSuite platform. So, yeah, I have lots of hats.
Well, you're the perfect person to talk to because you know it all.
We're going to say that I do.
Well, so what were you doing before? You said this company's been around for 30 years. What was the situation before NetSuite?
So we were on QuickBooks, but when we were on QuickBooks, we were 6 people, of which 4 were continuously using the QuickBooks system. We had 2, remote people who were kind of overseeing the organization, but we were hostily taken over last year. So we got a new board, new management. We hired 4 salespeople, and we were already transitioning in NetSuite, but that accelerated it. So because we got 4 new people on board, we don't want them in QuickBooks because they're not going to understand the system. It's not helpful to them. So we accelerated the process and went live 1/1, and then trained up everybody with LCS training, and here we are. Yeah.
And what was the motivator to switch accounting systems?
It was the CRM portion that we didn't have. We wanted to grow the company even as we were still the 6 people before everything happened. We just didn't have a proper CRM system. We couldn't, there were notes in there, but you couldn't pull anything. You couldn't pull reports as to what notes, who talked with whom. So we just needed a better system for that.
And you didn't have a CRM previously?
Nope.
Okay.
It was just the accounting system, and they kind of used the AR record, the customer record as their CRM That's where they keep the notes.
So normally, if I were talking to a business on QuickBooks and they didn't have a CRM, they would go out and they would find a CRM and they'd plug it into QuickBooks. But you didn't do that.
No, and there's so with our invoicing import at month end. So we get the invoice from the lab with all the people that wore the sweat patch, and it's individual lines. So it's 10,000 lines or more of a CSV file. We were importing that into Access, running the invoice, and then importing that file into QuickBooks. We wanted to eliminate that step. So we needed a more powerful system to do that.
So you said it's a record for everyone who wears it? Because you charge by the patient
patch.
Or the patch.
And then so we would put it into Access to then, it would accumulate all for like one customer. It would bring them all into one record, and then it would create that invoice for that customer. And then we would import that file, like the IFF file or whatever it was, into...
David knows these well.
I'm very familiar. Yes, I'm an expert on IFF
Oh, good,
files.
because I'm not. I just know enough to like get it out of Access and put it into QuickBooks. But, it's not efficient.
Oh, it's it's error prone. It's risky. Like, yes. All the things wrong with it. Yeah.
It was working, but then we would have 1,000-page, invoice to print out and then stuff and mail in actual USPS mail.
And who are you invoicing?
So like U.S. probation, if their field office uses this patch on, 10 people for that month, at 20 patches used that month, we would invoice that field office for U.S. probation. So it's all the individual agencies, if you will, that we're invoicing.
So you were like, hey, we need a CRM. And they're like, yeah, but I also get this nightmare I have to do this invoicing. So maybe something can do both. And that's what took you on your journey? That's
kind of what the thought was, it wasn't two pieces that made the decision. It was all happened at the same time. Like, it would be nice to have a CRM and it would be nice to get off of Access. So let's figure out how can we do that at the same time.
And how did you go from that problem to like realizing that NetSuite was your solution?
So I wasn't involved in that piece of the evaluation. I helped a little bit because it was between Salesforce and NetSuite. My husband's used Salesforce before, and he doesn't like it for very specific reasons.
Because he had to use it.
So there was reasons that we thought we would need that would be helpful for us. So I just kind of passed that information along and said, hey, my husband says that this is not a good thing because it won't do what we think it's going to do in this area that he's worked in. So we went with, I don't know if that's the reason that we went with NetSuite, but I'd like to think that was the reason that we chose it.
So how did you make the leap into this role? How did you end up where you are at?
So, like you said, back in the day, I started with Arthur Andersen literally right before Enron hit the news. I started in September of 2001, and then 9/11, and then Enron, and then I lost my job like 8 months later.
Oh, man.
So,
you got a beautiful taste of accounting instantly.
I did. And so it was in Albuquerque, which is much smaller than like the Fort Worth area that I am now. So the market was flooded. All the people that had lost their jobs were looking for jobs. And there was only so many jobs available. And I had 8 months of experience. So it was pretty much right out of college in that instance. So I found a couple little firms that took me in. They really weren't what I wanted to do. So I found a mid-sized firm that took me in for tax. So I sucked it up into tax.
So just because the listeners cannot see your face right now, when she said tax, you should have seen her face. Just if you can imagine the face somebody would make when I had to do tax. So just
no.
Tax is not my favorite. So I did tax for a year, and I ended up making my way back into Big Four because I kept in touch with a partner. So I got back into KPMG through the tax door. After about a year of that, I got to the audit side, back where I should have been, where I belonged. I worked there for 8 years, moved to Fort Worth, and then, the industry that's in Fort Worth is not the industry that I have experience in for public accounting. So I found a local accounting firm that worked better with my knowledge and my history. And then at that point, I made the decision to just let's go into private. Let's get out of public. I've been here for 13 years or whatever it is for a long time. Let's try my hand at private industry. So I went to one of our customers that was with the accounting firm I was with. I went with one of them and learned a whole heck of a lot. I had a big role. I had the controller role, the acting treasurer role, and the acting youth coordinator role all at one time, kind of when kind of at the end.
So you didn't really cut your hours when you went from public into private.
Oh, no. This was 12-hour days. There was just so much work.
Yeah.
But I learned a lot. I mean, you leave someplace and you're like, oh my gosh, I learned so much with that one. They unfortunately laid me off, which happens. And then I found where I am now at PharmChem. And it's kind of a funny story. So, I found them. They were looking for somebody and I was like, I'm not sure. So I kind of passed up applying at that point in time. Well, there was a woman with my same first name and a very, very similar last name. Well, the CEO at the time had called our audit partner, who I knew very well. He started talking about me because that's the name he heard, not the other woman's name. So ended up the CEO called me directly and said, hey, we got a very high recommendation. Do you want to come to an interview with us?
You got a job interview by accident.
By accident. Yeah. By word of mouth, by accident. Yep. But
amazing.
But now I've been here 5 years. So, yeah.
Do they make do you have to, like new PharmChem employees, do you have to wear the drug patch as part of your drug test?
No, we make everybody do a urine test just because for employment purposes, it's faster. But we're doing a wear test right now. I am not because I took it off to come here just, because I was going to be, but I had it on.
The air in Vegas will probably cause it to
right?
react.
I know. So I wore it for 7 days before, and I just took it off when we got here, and then I'll go home and I'll put it right back on to see how long can I wear it, and is there anything that wears funny? Is there anything that we need to know? So it'll be, because all of us are doing it right now. I just had this kind of interrupting the wear time because I really struggled. Should I wear it here and have everybody ask me questions? Or should I?
It's great advertising.
I thought
it's
that
marketing,
too, but then
right?
I was like, it'd been 7 days in, so it'd been through workouts and through.
Yeah.
It was kind of grody. So I didn't. Yeah, it's one of those. I struggled a lot, and I was like, I should probably just take it off.
Well, we had the crumble cookies guy, and then we had Johnny Pops, and they all had samples. You could have gave out samples.
I could have been like, hey, take this home.
Except nobody, it's not a good product to give to people in Las Vegas.
I know, right? Right?
Yeah.
They might have questions.
So you rolled out NetSuite. You're on NetSuite. I'm on your website now, and across the menu you have this menu bar, and you have a customer toolbox. You can pay your bill. You can reorder the products. You can request a quote. Is that NetSuite under the covers? Are you using any of the e-commerce features, or is this all proprietary? Or
for the reorder, it was built because of NetSuite. Like we didn't have that option prior to implementing NetSuite. It still has to be entered by the salesperson, but they can go in through the system and it kicks out an email to us that says, hey, this person wants to order more product. And it has to be a customer, so that's why it's not automatic. It's because we can't sell to like you. Because what if you were on the patch from probation? What if you changed out your patch? It's more of a control feature. But we're trying to automate a lot more. It's just there's 9 of us. So it's in order to continue to do our job and roll out, it's very it's tricky. Mm-hmm. So we're trying to do the little things we can and, outsource what we just don't know how to do. So we're still growing.
So PharmChem's been around for a while. You've been with them for 5 years, it looks like. Is PharmChem like aiming to grow rapidly?
Well,
you said there was a hostile takeover.
We did have a hostile takeover.
Like, how does that happen in a small company like that? Because I'm picturing, hostile takeover. It's always like big public company with some billionaire investor who buys, shares.
Yeah. So we were actually surprised. So we're OTC traded. So we're on the pink sheets. And we were actually limited information at that point in time because we weren't reporting. We didn't need to, so we were limited. Well, here comes a shareholder who came out of the blue, literally. I came out of the blue and bought up so much of the shares. And, he talked with the CEO at the time and was interested in, he wanted to be on the board, but we only had 3 seats. And so they did a proxy fight with us, which I didn't know what that meant. I didn't know how that worked. Well, they won.
So what is that? How did that work? Tell us about that.
So, when you own shares in any kind of company, you get the proxy once a year that says, hey, vote for the board members, vote for the auditor, and if there's any other matters. Well, we sent ours out with our current board. They sent one out with who they wanted to be on the new board. Well, they had enough shares and enough people on their side, if you will. So they ended up winning the proxy fight. And at that point in time, they then dismissed the board that we had, which was the CEO and the CFO at that time. promoted me up to the CFO, promoted who our president was at the time to the CEO role, and brand new board.
That must have been a lot of drama.
It was
going on.
intense.
Yes.
It was intense. So we were lucky enough to have 3 months with the former CEO and CFO to kind of transition, things if I had questions or whatnot to kind of help bounce things off of. But it's been a journey. And I don't know anybody else who's been through a hostile takeover, like personally.
Yeah, they're not that common.
And it's good TV.
It was a surprise, which is why it happened. Because normally there's these, poison pills we read about. And
Yeah, no, this literally came out of the blue.
Wow.
Like earlier that year, we're like, what is going on? Like, where did this come from?
So I imagine the investor did this because they believe in the company and they're going to. So what's the plan now?
Well, so the board directive is to grow sales, obviously, and to try and emerge ourselves into different revenue streams, different markets. We face hurdles because, our FDA clearance is for criminal justice only.
Really? Just specific purpose? They limit you to that?
They did. Mind you, this was years and years ago that we went through the FDA clearance. So we don't know, okay, can we now go into, has the time lapsed? Can we now do it? Do we have to do new FDA clearance? Do we have, what do we have to do to get into employee testing? I know, maybe off-the-shelf testing for parents. I've always had the thought that we could break into the NFL or the NBA. Nobody really listens to that suggestion, but I think it's a good one. So when we get the new product manager, I'm going to throw that out there to him, find somebody to talk to.
Just tell all the sales guys you're going to get tickets to these games if we're selling.
Let's go talk to them.
Yeah,
Let's find the person. So, we are trying to expand, but we're very niche too. And we kind of are a premium product over the other drug testing methods that there are out there.
What's it cost? Is that
right now, a single patch we just raised prices, so I'm going to quote the old one. A single patch itself costs $31.45, and then the analysis costs. I lied. Analysis is $31.45.
$31
and 45
cents.
Just for the standard testing, which is 5 drugs.
Okay, that doesn't sound like too much.
No, it doesn't. But when you compare it to a urine test, which is less than $10.
Okay.
Because you have the patch cost, which is $10.58, less than $11 for one, plus the lab cost, which is $31.45. Then you're getting up there in the price point, and that's why urine is. But our testing is less tamperable.
Yeah.
Our cutoff levels are lower usually than what a urine sample will be. So we have a lot of benefits, but we just need to find the right market.
You're a premium product, and you just gotta get into those. The people who want that.
Yep. We just need to find the right market for it. Yep.
So on the day-to-day, it sounds like you said, you're a team, there's 9 of you. You're doing tons of different hats, right? You said you're doing reconciliation, you're doing AP, you're doing AR, you're doing everything. How did you even have time to roll out NetSuite? How did you do this?
Oh, it was...
Did you bring in implementers? Did you do it yourself? How did this happen?
No, we did it ourselves. We worked with NetSuite Direct and all of the developers and all of the ACS team, and we did all the pre-videos. It was a lot of work. I don't know how now I could do it with my schedule now. I don't know if we could be like, hey, let's implement a new system. I'd be like, I don't have time. But we found the time. It was a lot of meetings, a lot of testing, just a lot. We didn't get Christmas break. Because we had to implement, and the board directed 1/1, you will be done. So I was like, oh.
But tell me you're getting it this year.
Yes.
Good.
Yep. We're implemented. The testing is done because we were testing the invoice import, and that was the key.
Right.
And it was only
because that's revenue.
Revenue.
We have to bring money in the door
to bill our customers, and it was it's a very complex system and how it was developed. So we were testing it, and then whatever would break, we would have to wait and then have them fix it and then retest it. And it was we had family in town. I was like, I'm going to be in the office. So,
I feel like what the problem you had or the challenge you had with the whole invoicing, very specific, it's something that actually a lot of organizations have. I worked for a very large HOA.
Okay.
And we had a similar thing where we had this proprietary software that had been developed for us to bill all the different, properties.
Yeah, okay.
And it required this import. And the guy who, maintained it was 80 years old. And only he knew how to fix it. And he had to give us a new version every year.
Oh.
Because he had to manually update all the tax rates, essentially. And
oh, yeah. Okay, so then I don't feel so bad.
No, I
Just-
think like
I
there's
was-
a lot of organizations doing that.
And we were, when we were trying to find, okay, how can we do this better? We were trying to think of other organizations that would have a similar, invoice import process. And we couldn't think of one to like call and be like, hey, we have questions. Like, how do you do it?
Wow.
Maybe we're doing it a completely backwards way.
There's so many people still using IFs and stuff. It just makes me scream. There's so many.
Well, because until
That
the
drives me nuts.
process reaches a breaking point, they'll keep it going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a lot of people have some legacy piece in their business that they just can't replace, or it's too mission critical and it's working fine, and they'd rather not fix it
Yeah,
or
and
or improve it.
that was I was all for how do we get this to, but I was also very, very determined and stubborn. If one thing didn't work, I was like, we can't work with that. Like, you need to fix it. So they probably were like, oh, every time I emailed them back, because I was like, no, it's not right yet. Like, we need to. This is how it has to be. There's no alternative. So we worked very hard and very close with them. Like I said, I'm sure they were happy to be done with us.
Well, they must like you because they brought you here to SuiteWorld, right?
I know. I'm pretty amazed. So, and it wasn't because of the invoice import. It was because LCS, because of our use of them.
LCS.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
The
I can't think of what LCS.
what does it stand for? I forgot too. What does it do?
Learning LCS. Learning Cloud Systems Solutions. It's the piece. So there's ACS and LCS. ACS is who we go to for different projects. LCS is who we went to for training on our system.
Got it.
Yep. So we use them.
Is that the customer learning cloud support?
Yep.
From NetSuite Education Services. Okay.
Yep. We use them. They went into our system after it was built and learned it. Like, learned all the customizations that we had, and then taught our sales team more than once, which was amazing. So that everybody was on the same page. Everybody saw the same demonstration.
So they're training your staff based on your implementation of NetSuite.
Yes.
That's pretty
Oh,
cool.
that's really neat.
Yeah.
That's nifty.
Yeah. So I have nothing but good things to say about LCS.
And when you bring on a new salesperson, they go through it.
We can always get a block of
That's-
time with, and
great.
I've said her name 1,000 times, with Darlene Kendrick. She is amazing. And yeah,
Shout out to Darlene if you're listening.
So yeah, she's happy to train. We brought on a new person in February, and she did a one-on-one with her to go over the system and walk her through like all the things on how to do a sales order and how to fulfill it and invoice and the processes that they need. So yeah.
And then you don't have to do it. So you got one thing off your plate.
Right? Yeah. Exactly right.
Well, Shana, you know what? It's happy hour right now.
Okay.
It's 5:00.
Awesome.
This was wonderful. Thank you so much
Of
for speaking with us. I would keep going, but we got to call it quits at some
Oh,
point.
I know.
right?
I know. There's drinks waiting for us.
That's right. So Shana Veale, CPA, thank you for your time. If people want to connect with you
Yeah.
online, where are you available?
I'm on LinkedIn.
Okay.
Just in Shana Veale. Yep.
We'll put it in the show notes.
Okay. Yep. That's a good place to do it.
Thanks, Shana.
Awesome.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Shana.
Okay. Bye.